The news has been horrific lately of mass exodus of people trying to get out of Afghanistan as the Taliban have taken over. And people are wondering, is Afghanistan found in Bible prophecy? Let's find out. Well, folks, as many of you have been watching the news, you've seen the horrific things going on in Afghanistan right now. 20 years the United States has been in Afghanistan. We've lost many Americans in this war to bring freedom for the people from the Taliban. We've backed out. The Taliban are coming. They're killing and looting and rioting. And people are wondering, is Afghanistan found in Bible prophecy? I'm joined here with my wife, Heather Jones. I'm Nathan Jones.
Hi.
We both serve here at Lamb Lion Ministries. And Heather, it's been a real rough few days watching this. It's brought up a lot of bad feelings, hasn't it?
It has, and I had trouble sleeping last night because you're sad for the people. You're sad for our military men that have served, and their families had to sacrifice. People we've lost, military men over there, and to know that our sacrifice just kind of went down the drain, and just a few moments is really sad. And I feel for the people because a lot of their freedoms are being taken away. There's missionaries there that their lives are in terrible danger right now.
I think of the terrible pictures of the people hanging on the airplanes, desperate to escape what they know when the Taliban come. They'll set up Sharia law strictly once more, and it'll be a dark time. I feel outraged too, is when you look at the amount of weaponry that we abandoned,
yes.
Billions of dollars in drones and missiles, tanks, Humvees, left for the Taliban to begin shooting at us. It's hard to fathom the emotions, but the Bible kind of clears it up, doesn't it?
Yeah, I mean, last night when I asked you told me Afghanistan is in the Bible, right?
It is. You can find Afghanistan in Bible prophecy. The Bible prophesies this, and you can find it in the book of Ezekiel, chapters 38 and 39. And it's called the Gog and Magog War, and that's where we'll find Afghanistan. Now, I call it the Gog-Magog battle as well, and it's set between a massive coalition of nations descended from Noah's sons. Now, the nations are from the territories of ancient Meshech, Tubal, Persia, Cush, Gomer, and Beth Togarmah. Their leader is called Gog. He's the prince of Rosh, Meshech, and Tubal. And the battlefield is on the mountains of Israel, which had long been desolate. The purpose of the invasion is to plunder and take booty and attack the people of Israel. Now, this prophecy is incredible because 2 whole chapters are dedicated to this massive attack by this coalition against Israel. Now, these are, of course, the Old Testament names. So let's go to the New Testament names and find out who these players are in the Gog and Magog War. Let's start with Rosh. The word Rosh, or Ros, appears in Ezekiel's list of nations. You'll find it in the New King James Version and other translations based on the Greek Septuagint, which others translate as the adjective chief or prince. Now, 10th century Byzantine writers, such as Ibn Faslan, identified a group of Scythians dwelling in the northern parts of Taurus upon the river Volga as the Ros. The early Byzantine church claimed that the Ros were the people who lived far north of Greece in the area today known as Russia, and Rosh is supposed to be, according to Ezekiel 39, 1-2, from the remotest parts of the north. Now, no other nation exists more directly north of Israel and is more remote than modern-day Russia.
So Nathan, who's Magog? I don't know who that is.
Yeah, the Magog. Well, the Magog, some historians point to the former Soviet nations, Kazakhstan, Kyrgyzstan, Uzbekistan, Turkmenistan, Tajikistan, as well as Afghanistan. There's a mouthful, but that's where you find Afghanistan in Bible prophecy. It's one of the members of Magog. Now, historian Edwin Yamuchi explains that Magog was the ancient Scythian northern nomadic tribes who inhabited territories from Central Asia across the southern steppes of modern Russia. These nations today, get this, consist of a population of 60 million and are united by one commonality, Islam.
So who's Meshech?
Well, the ancient Mashoi or Mushki or Muska tribe settled in Cilicia and Cappadocia, which is now part of modern-day Turkey. Ezekiel 27:13 notes these people, they traded in slaves to Tyre, and Ezekiel 32 refers to them as an ancient bandit nation.
So I know another nation that's mentioned is called Tubal. Who's that?
Well, the Tubal would have hailed from the ancient Tabaranoi tribe, and that also is from the area of Turkey.
And it seems like Gomer was in the Bible earlier, but what is Gomer as a location?
Right. Gomer is not the wife of a minor prophet. The Jewish historian Josephus identified Gomer, who founded whom the Greeks now call Galatians or Gauls, but were then called the Gomerites. Gomer most popularly looks to reference the Gemari of the Assyrians or Sumerians, who lived in the Black Sea area adjacent to Turkey.
Okay, how about Beth Togarmah?
Well, Togarmah or Beth Togarmah, which means the house of Togarmah, contains an etymological connection between the name Togarmah and the names Turkey and Turkestan. So the Tilgemu resided between ancient Carchemish and Haran, which is modern-day Turkey, and it possibly also covers the lands of Azerbaijan and Armenia. Now, Persia, of course, the land it's ancient and long-running. It's the easiest to identify. It's only changed its name to Iran during the last century in 1935. And Kush, again, it's another area. It's easy to identify. It's split into Ethiopia and the Sudan, and in more recent history.
But how about Put?
Put, yeah. Well, scholars claim that Put is Libya, with the possibility of the lands that also include Algeria and Tunisia.
And then I know in that prophecy they say something about the many nations. Who are those?
Yeah, it kind of lumps a bunch of other nations together. Ezekiel describes Sheba and Dedan and the merchants of Tarshish and all their young lions. They're just sitting back and observing this battle, this massive coalition that will attack Israel. Sheba and Dedan were Shem's descendants who settled in modern-day Saudi Arabia. Now, Tarshish could refer to Tarsus, located just northwest of Israel, or the island of Sardinia, located just north of Carthage in the Mediterranean Sea. But more than likely, the inhabitants of Tartessus, located on the southwest coast of Spain, denotes the Phoenician merchants who sailed as far as Britain. So, when the Bible says young lions here, it could be referring to Spain and Great Britain's colonies in the New World, and that could very well have there be a prophecy that points to how the Americas are going to sit back and do nothing and let this coalition attack Israel. Now, noticeably absent from this list of Middle Eastern nations are those surrounding modern-day Israel, such as Syria and Lebanon, Jordan, Egypt, Gaza, Iraq, and the Arabian Peninsula nations. Now, why these many nations are not also actively involved in the Gog-Magog battle, well, it's open to speculation, but I think a Psalm 83 scenario where the seer Asaph foresaw Israel subjugating their surrounding neighbors could be the scenario that grants Israel the peaceful precondition Ezekiel describes that precedes the Gog-Magog invasion.
So, I mean, what's going to happen after all of this? So, kind of us withdrawing from Afghanistan kind of plays into all of this, doesn't it?
It absolutely does. God is sovereign. He's in control. At some point, Afghanistan could not be controlled by America. It had to be ready to join the other Islamic nations in this attack on Israel. Now, the end result of such a massive invasion by a seemingly invincible army on an unprotected Israel ends up surprising the invaders, and it's going to shock the world. The invading nations are, in truth, they're being manipulated by God. The Bible says they're being pulled out of the lands as with hooks in their jaws, so those nations feel the sovereign Lord's fury. God drags these specific nations to the mountains of Israel to bring him to judgment with pestilence and bloodshed. Biblical judgments here: flooding rain, great hailstone, fire, and brimstone. And God's ultimate purpose for supernaturally obliterating the invading coalition is so thus I, God, will magnify myself and sanctify myself, and I will be known in the eyes of many nations. Then they shall know that I am the Lord. So God's supernatural victory over the Gog-Magog invaders allows him to reintroduce himself to the world and declare in no uncertain terms that Yahweh is personally defending Israel. Should the people of the world doubt, they only have to look on Israel, who will go out and set on fire and burn the weapons, and they'll make fires with them for 7 years. And as for the invaders' corpses, for 7 months the house of Israel will be burying them in order to cleanse the land in a newly named valley, the Valley of Hamon-Gog, by a newly built town called Hamona.
So Nathan, can the rapture happen before this invasion?
Timing is very important. I'm going to put a link underneath of a full hour-long presentation I have to teach you about what's going to happen with the Gog-Magog war. I explore the various timing views. I personally believe that the most clues point to the fact that this event, because God supernaturally steps into history again and the world knows him, It's not through the church, it's through Israel. So this is an after rapture event, but I believe it's going to fall in just at the onset or just before the tribulation begins. So if you want to know the arguments for and against what the different timing views are, because some will say it's the end of the millennial kingdom, I don't think so. Check out that link below. And if you like these videos, please like, subscribe, and share. There's something very important we need to do for the Afghani people.
We need to pray. And we need to pray for the Afghani people. We need to pray for the Christian missionaries that are there right now. So let's join around the world and pray for these people.